What's up, everyone? Welcome back to If Plants Could Talk. This is Garrett. I'm your host. This conversation took place on August 21st, 2022, with my very special guest, Cheydplantlady, also known as Cheyenne. Cheyenne joined me virtually today from her indoor jungle in the Seattle, Washington area. Shay was an awesome human being to spend an hour and 10 minutes with. And if you stick around till the end of this episode and watch the video options on either YouTube or Spotify, you'll get to get a tour of her indoor garden, her indoor jungle. She has roughly 1,000 plants growing under artificial light, all kinds of propagation going on, and really exotic imported house plants and succulents. Her passion for plants was very apparent. I could feel it in connecting with her and getting to hear about her journeys with plant medicine, specifically with peyote and other psychedelic medicines, was awesome. I feel honored to have had a woman discussing her experiences with those types of medicines on the podcast. It's a rare occasion. I'm really just happy with this episode overall. If you guys don't follow Shay, make sure to head over her Instagram. It's at Shay, Cheyd, the letter D, Plant Lady. And that is her website URL as well. I will make sure to plug links to all of her socials and website in the description of this episode. I want to take a moment to tell you guys about my sponsors. If you scroll down into the description of this episode, you will find links to Mezcala Nursery. They are located in Long Beach, California. Green Touch Nursery, GT Nursery, is located in Bellflower, California. Big shout out to Plantly.io. You can go into your web browser and type in plantly.io or go into the App Store for Android or iOS and download the free Plantly app. If you're interested in becoming a vendor, I have provided a link for you to do so in the description of this episode. If you are interested in feeling healthy, looking healthy, and being healthy, check out the link to Real Mushrooms. It is a mushroom supplement company offering all different kinds of mushrooms in both powder and capsule form. If you use my link in the description of this episode, you will get 10% off your first order. Real Mushrooms. All right, here is Shay. Cheydplantlady. Cheyenne, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining me. You have a lovely sight to see behind you.
Thank you.
Nice backdrop. It looks like it would be like a green screen because it's so lush.
Yeah, there's a lot going on back there. These guys are 8 feet tall or 8 foot tall shelving units. And then I have stuff on top of them as well and lights mounted to the wall above them. So it's probably about 10 to 12 feet in total utilizable space.
Wow. Stacked
Yeah.
on top of each other too. That's
Yep.
awesome. You're dedicated.
Yeah. I've gotten really into the vertical gardening. It's been a lot of fun. I started building living walls at my old apartment, and I just love being able to utilize more space like that. And then obviously it creates like something really nice to look at too.
Yeah, I'll say. That's awesome. What's
Yeah.
vertical? I'm not sure I understand what vertical gardening is.
Just means it kind of goes upwards instead of sprawling out along a flat surface. So you get to use more upward space instead of just being limited to what surface area you have available on a shelf or the ground or something.
So essentially you're kind of training these plants, right? To
Yeah.
grow. Okay.
Yep. A lot of them kind of climb naturally, but giving them the wall to climb on, they don't really need the moss poles and stuff. I might have to tape them up here and there, but for the most part, they just kind of do their own thing. It's their natural patterns.
That's awesome. Right before we started, I had a plant fall down, a philodendron, a heart shaped, the heart philodendron. It was up there.
Yeah.
It fell off the wall right before I admitted you to the waiting room. I was like, oh my God.
Oh, no.
Cleaned it up real quick. Yeah. Cool. So when did you discover plants, and how long have plants been a part of your life?
So I mean, I had two grandmothers. My grandma Duffy was like my dad's grandmother, and then my Ling, she's my stepmom's mom, the old Filipino lady.
Oh,
And they
really?
were both avid gardeners as I was a kid. Remember living in Bremerton, and Ling had our entire backyard just like produce garden. And so we'd have fresh peppers and tomatoes and flowers and stuff that she grew, and she would spend most of the days out in the garden. And the same thing with my grandma Duffy in New York. I lived on Long Island for 7 years, and most of my family's out there still. But my grandma Duffy also had like a big lush flower garden in her backyard as well, where my family still lives. And gardening didn't really enter my life as an individual until I was an adult. Maybe 2017 is when I really found gardening. I worked on a produce farm alongside working in a restaurant. So I met Ryan, the owner of Steel Wheel Farm up in Fall City, because he would sell produce to the restaurant I was working in.
Mhm.
And so I started working with him part-time out in the fields and stuff like that, and just like starting seeds in the greenhouse and like transferring plugs and harvesting and like driving trucks through the fields and like loading up thousands of pounds of produce. And it was so
Awesome.
much fun. I was exhausted all the time, but it really gave me a different relationship with food,
Mm.
especially just because it's so different to see it go from a seed all the way to a finished product on a plate.
Right.
Um, and not long after I worked with Ryan, I started collecting succulents. I kind of just walked past one in like a grocery store one day. I was like, oh, you know what? This would look nice in my windowsill. Let me give it a try. And one of the first ones I picked up was a lithup,
Oh,
and notoriously difficult plant, especially as a new gardener, because you don't understand that these things like really don't want to be watered all the
right.
time. So yeah, I want to say it was 2017. I was living in Kent, Washington, and I had like the perfect patio railing to like set the plants out on the summer, and then I could bring them all into the windowsill in the winter.
Mhm.
And then it just kind of got out of hand. My first loves were definitely succulents and cacti, and I think by the time I moved out of that place, it was an entire carload of pots and plants.
Uh,
And yeah, it was a lot. And I started taking care of houseplants probably in 2018 or so, but because I was a lazy waterer and I was working so much, I didn't really have time to give them the care that they really needed.
yeah.
I was working two jobs a lot of the time, whether it be in a restaurant or the farm or different restaurants and stuff like that. So I didn't get as good at those until probably 2019 or so.
Mm.
But yeah,
That's so cool that it was a lithop of all plants. It's so, like a obscure
yeah,
plant to really catch your attention, I feel like. And they're
yeah.
so cool.
It seems like my love of like weird and unusual plant leaves and shapes and care and history like definitely started from the beginning, because I saw one, I was just like, what the fuck is that? That is
Right.
so cool. This is a plant. I couldn't believe that it was a plant.
Yeah, they're weirdos. They like come out of each other,
Yeah.
busting out of each other.
Yeah.
Those things are weird. Man. And what was the reasons for travels? Are you just like adventurous? It sounds like you lived all over the place a little bit. Have you moved around a lot?
So I'm a single mom. I had
Mm.
my daughter in 2013 when I was 20.
Hmm.
So a lot of it was trying to keep my rent costs low because I was paying
Yeah.
for everything myself. So I would have to move to different areas to keep my rent costs low, basically.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but I've moved like every 2 to 3 years pretty much. So I've been in the place I'm in now for about a year. Hopefully I'm not going anywhere anytime soon though.
Well, it sounds like you found a good place then.
Yeah.
So do you, with the amount of plants that you have, do you utilize any type of watering or timers or anything like that? Like, do you hand
Oh,
water everything?
I hand water everything. I
Wow.
am trying to figure out how to do irrigation systems
Yeah.
in here without it taking up too much more space. But like all the lighting's on timers, and so I don't have to worry about any of that. The humidifiers are all on the same timers as the lighting, so they kind of go on and off by themselves.
Yeah.
So it makes that part of it really easy. But watering is definitely like it spans multiple days a week, because if I were to spend the entire day doing it, it would probably take me like 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah, I could see why utilizing irrigation would be really helpful with the amount of plants
Yeah.
that you have.
Yeah,
But you also
especially in
have
the
different
walls
types
too.
too, right? The like
Yeah,
totally different requirements.
yeah, that's the tricky part too. I mean, like, thankfully, all this behind me is kind of like all on the same vibe, so I don't have to worry about it as much. But like my cacti and my succulents and all that are still on completely different schedules. Thankfully, they're all more of a bit of a neglect cycle, which they're
Mm,
fine with.
mm. And so, did you take like a lot of the love and passion from carrying, like tending produce?
I did, yeah. There was also livestock there, so I kind
Wow,
of
that's a trip.
uh yeah, we had chickens, pigs, and cows, and the pigs were like my best friends. I would go visit them almost every day and like hang out in their pen with them. They're like giant dogs. They're such loving animals and they're so funny. Um, but tending produce definitely made me have a deeper appreciation for the world around me because it's it's really hard work to grow a lot of produce, like enough to even just sustain yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's difficult and it takes a lot of work and it does require some passion behind it,
Yeah.
and it requires faith in yourself, I think, being
Okay.
able to grow something from start to finish to be able to enjoy it and share it with other people.
Yeah, it's kind of a daunting task. Anytime I get like, I don't know, peppers or I have strawberries, and anytime I get that kind of stuff, I'm like, oh man, I hope it live. Like I really want it to
Hmm.
live. I really want it to
Yeah.
survive. It's like a little
Yeah,
more
there's a lot of
important.
pressure.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, with a house plant, it doesn't it's I mean, don't get me wrong, the passion is still there and the care and the love is still there, but when it comes to food, especially for people that are like food insecure too, it's like
Mm,
if you lose that, it's even more of like a gut punch kind of.
yeah.
It's different. It's a different kind of love, I think.
So are you like familiar with it? Because I just started working in produce recently, and started learning about some of the things that the place that I work for is doing, like food deserts. I wasn't even really aware that like I guess a lot of there's a problem in this country where there's areas that don't have produce. They don't have access to a lot
Yeah,
of produce. And so
yeah.
there's like they call it like a food desert or something. I don't know. So they're like bringing
Yeah,
food to them.
it's so I remember visiting Louisiana down in New Orleans, probably in 2016 or something like that. And I staged at different restaurants down there because I had wanted to move down there at one point. So I was trying to like look at potential jobs and stuff. And when I started talking to some of these restaurant owners about like the local produce, like what do they use when it's in season, like the soil down there isn't good for growing produce, and like what they can grow isn't the greatest quality, so a lot of it is having to be shipped in from other parts of the country, which
Like
is rough.
hydroponics too, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You can't utilize the earth that you're living on, which is kind of a bummer, especially down there for the farmers that do it, because they have to work so much harder and they have to find so many workarounds to make it work down there because their soil quality.
Yeah. I listened to, I don't know who it was, maybe it was Sad Guru, talking about how the fertility in all of the world's soil is like dwindling. And we're like on the verge of like in the near future of our soil not being able to continue to be used to grow food because of how
Yeah,
crazy we do it. Mass what is it? Factory farming.
factory farming.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just depleting all the natural resources that are in that soil and in the earth, and we're not doing the upkeep to revitalize it.
Mm.
Cover crops aren't being used, tilling in isn't being utilized very much, and I think our soil health is like a really big concern.
Yeah, it's not something that people talk about a lot because I was like, the first time I heard somebody like ringing the alarm, like, "Yo, this is serious. You need to pay
Yeah,
attention."
and it's I remember when I first heard about it, it definitely seemed like a brand new problem, but it just didn't make it to my ears. You're right. Nobody's talking about it very much.
Yeah, seems like that's important.
Yeah, it seems like it. You would think that that would be a pretty key factor, especially if we want to keep growing produce and eating produce.
But even your style of growing with the houseplants is like relatively modern, new stuff. Like, I mean, I can't imagine how it's gonna evolve with as the technology gets better. And
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you can
I
grow a
just
jungle inside your house, which is
yeah,
crazy.
exactly. It's pretty nuts. I mean, the tools that are available for indoor gardening is pretty insane. I mean, you have thousands of choices in fertilizers and soils amendments, and you can really just like create your own everything custom to what you need, which I think is a really cool aspect. But there are certain dangers to it. Like I know peat moss or peat compost is
Mm-hmm.
a really difficult thing to work with because it takes so long to be created in the earth and it's
Yeah.
not very sustainable. But as far as like sphagnum moss, which comes from like the same thing, that side of it is more sustainable because that portion of the plant and process grows much quicker.
Mm.
So
Have you,
it's like we're harvesting all this stuff to be able to do it, but I don't think a lot of companies are looking too far ahead.
yeah, the long haul
Yeah,
implications.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well,
Hmm.
I'm really fascinated by like plants that can grow without a medium, like aeroponics, those kinds of plants.
Hmm.
That stuff's wild. Even the the vegetable, like the people that grow vegetables and have like a koi pond. What do they call that? I don't remember what it's called. Aquaponics. They call it
Yeah,
aquaponics, and they have fish going around, and it like creates the
yeah,
fertilizer, and it waters. It has irrigation. It waters. Those are
yeah.
so cool. I would love to have one of those.
Aquaponics and not hydroponics, but aquascaping is something I would really love to get into because it just seems so fascinating. You're building, however big you want of like self-sustaining ecosystems, and
Yeah.
that just blows my mind. And it seems so fascinating to me. But
Mm,
I would definitely love to get like fish ponds to like grow plants in and stuff like that when I have land, I guess.
yeah.
And I
Is that
think
the
that
goal down the line? Get some
yeah,
land.
I would love to have like acreage with some greenhouses on it. I would love to grow my own produce and have some minimal livestock. I think I just want to be able to self-sustain without having to rely on like factory farming and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels better than going to the grocery store and picking up produce, especially right now with inflation. It's
Yeah.
horrible to go grocery shopping.
Spending all your money on food is ridiculous. We spend so
Yeah,
much money on food. So much.
yeah. And to think it all used to just be shared amongst the community for
Right.
no charge.
Yeah, that very least we could do is have more community gardens. I know there's some, but it seems to me like every community should have one.
Yeah, I agree with that. Seattle's actually pretty good about that. There's a lot of urban community gardens in the
Yeah.
area that you can kind of go through, and
The cities are good about that. Yeah.
yeah, they
Big
are
big
getting a
cities.
lot better about that. I love it. It's fun to just go walk through them and see what other people are just trying to grow.
Yeah, and there's a lot of opportunity to like help people that are impoverished and give them something to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know when I was struggling a lot, gardening helped me mentally push through a lot of struggles that I was having. And it was really rewarding to work on it because it gave me a sense of purpose and a sense of fulfillment. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's what a lot of these people need. They need
Yes.
something to look forward to and they
Mm-hmm.
need something to feel proud of, is kind of how I feel about it.
Yeah, something to nurture and like
Hmm.
care for. Yeah. Like that's the direction I'm heading for sure is I want to create some kind of community garden for the homeless in downtown Los Angeles and maybe other areas, but I'm starting there for some reason. Uh I want that to be like at least if we're not gonna have any programs or be able to help them and house them, like can we at least fucking make it a little bit more enjoyable for them,
Yeah,
please?
like
Can we give them
seriously,
food and like, something to do and
give them
purpose?
anything. Yeah, I know there's a ton of NIMBYs here in Seattle that and homelessness is a really big problem out here, especially
That
downtown
would
and stuff
suck.
like that.
In the rain?
Yeah,
What the fuck?
yeah, yeah, man. Like these guys do not have it easy, and I really feel for them out here because they're getting constantly getting kicked out of every place that they set up a camp. And
Oh
it's
god,
like,
that's the
fuck,
worst
like as soon as
approach.
they get on their feet, like they have to do it all over again. And it's like a constant cycle of like breaking down, setting up, et cetera, et cetera.
Out of sight, out of
Just
mind doesn't work.
exactly. It
That's
doesn't
that's
work.
what got us into the situation is pretending like that's not
Exactly.
happening. You
Like,
know?
yeah, it's not our problem because it doesn't
Disregard.
affect us.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
just how the world is. We have people
Hmm.
living on the streets.
Yeah. And that, like, that itself is shitty as hell because, like, imagine you have a son,
Yeah,
and I've had to explain to my daughter, she's 9 now. Like, unfortunately, yeah, there are people that live in tents on the side of the street because they don't have anything else. And, we should always try to help these people if we're in a position to.
yeah.
But, like, the face she made when I explained this to her, it's like something broke. And it's like, man,
Yeah.
that childlike wonder just kind of gets chipped off about the world around her. And it's so sad to see sometimes.
It makes me have a lot of faith in the next generation because my kid, I don't even have him that often. And when he does come around, he like was talking about it. He did some kind of food drive, like can drive, and was so excited to raise funds for the homeless. And like, yeah, you could see the heartbreak in his eyes. He like doesn't get it, you know. And I feel like there's a little
Yeah.
bit of a disconnect from our past generation, the generation above us, kind of didn't have a whole lot of sympathy for it, you know,
Yeah.
and really
Agreed.
disregarded and judged and like, get out of my face, I'm not giving you a dollar. That kind of shit was really prevalent in the
Yeah.
90s, you know.
Yeah. Big time.
And yeah, I just I don't think that we can solve it, but we can at least help.
Yeah. The more people, like, on the individual level that try their best to do a little bit better every day and give when they can, I think that's going to make more of a difference overall than our government's trying to come up with budgets and plans and shit that just never come to fruition. I think us as people kind of have to take that into our own hands
Yeah.
because as we can see, like, we can't rely on our fucking government for anything these days. It's
If they
just
can't profit, then they're not going to do it. Period.
exactly,
We can't rely on
exactly,
them for everything. They're becoming more and
exactly.
more useless,
Hmm.
and everyone's having less and less faith in them.
Exactly. Especially over the last like 2 to 3 years with
Yeah,
like
I'll
COVID
say.
and all that shit, man. It's just like my faith, I mean, my faith broke in the government when Trump was elected.
Hmm.
But it's just gotten chipped away at over the last few years because like this government really doesn't give a shit about the people. They want to crank the numbers, they want to line their own pockets, and they want to do what's going to benefit them in the long run. It doesn't come down to the actual people anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, replacing Trump with an old man, an establishment, corrupt, fucking amnesia having president is not much better, dude.
Exactly.
It's not.
Exactly.
It's hard to even watch. I'm like, dude, you need to be in bed, like resting with your family for your final days, man. Like, you're gonna die on camera,
Yeah, you need to be cranking shit off of your bucket list right
right?
now.
Travel the world,
Oh,
you weirdo. What are you
yeah. I
president
think
for?
that's another weird fucking problem. It's like it's all old white dudes.
Yeah,
And
why
it's
do they
like
even want to be
there's
president?
yeah, like what do they get out of it at that point? I mean, other than a lifetime pension and security, but like why? Why do you want to spend your presumably last years trying to fucking get yourself stressed out to the point you can't sleep for 4 to 8 years?
Yeah, well,
Why would you
all
want to
of
do
their
that to
future
yourself?
generations are lined with with money. They don't ever have
Mm-hmm.
to worry. You know,
Yep. Yep.
it's really all it comes down to is them looking out for themselves. Really,
Exactly. I agree.
it's very sad, very very sad.
Hmm.
But yeah, I like even just making one person smile, like a homeless person. Just even just seeing them have like some excitement.
Yeah. Like
You
your
know,
video that you posted the other day of you giving out plants to these guys, that was so awesome. And I bet that made a huge difference in some of their days.
thank you.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The one that came back was like, let me get a fat one. I started laughing so hard. He seemed so sweet.
Tell me about Shady Plant Lady, the business, please. Would you?
Yeah. Um, it started in 2019, early 2019, and the idea kind of came as a joke.
Hmm.
My boyfriend at the time kind of suggested offhandedly one day is like, you could sell these things to like make room for new ones that you want to buy. And it's like, you can give yourself a plant budget that way. And I was like, oh shit, I guess that's true. I guess I could do that. And then I played around with it for a while and I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. Why not? Like, I love doing this. I love growing these things. I like
Mhm.
giving them out to people. So why not, try and make a side hustle of it? Because I was working in corporate kitchens at that time and the money was good, but it wasn't fulfilling. It was very soul draining. And so I started it, I think I started selling in like July or August of 2019.
Mhm.
And getting the messages and like the reviews from people that were like, oh my God, this is so awesome. This made me so happy. Thank you so much. Like that alone is enough
Mhm.
to make it worth it for me. And I,
Mhm.
even now, whenever I get a review and somebody's like, this is amazing, I'm so glad to be part of this, it lifts me up every single time.
Yes.
But I
That's the true
definitely,
payoff is the gratitude and the
seriously,
people that like to get to have the plant, right?
seriously,
Yeah.
they get to be happy. They get something that they wanted, and now they get to nurture and love something that I got to nurture and love. And
Mhm.
they got to do it. And then a lot of the time, these people become my friends, which is great.
Yeah.
A lot of my clients are now my friends, and they're all regulars. And I, I don't know what I would do without them because they add so much brightness to my day. But I started with succulents, and it was all just ones that I had grown and propagated myself over the years of collecting. And
Mhm.
then once I realized that I ran out of plants of my own to sell, I started looking into importing and I started looking into hybrids and different varieties and stuff like that. And then that opened a whole new world of plants for me. And it was
Mm.
amazing. There were bright, beautiful colors and weird shapes and, variegated stuff. And just, I'm like I said, I'm a sucker for stuff that looks weird. So if it looked like out of a Tim Burton movie, I wanted it. I wanted to see it
Yeah.
grow and see what the pattern was like. And then it just kind of blew up. It took off a lot faster than I expected.
Yeah.
And I think in a way I'm lucky that I started when I did because
Mhm.
I got in pre 2020. So I was already kind of established. I already kind of knew what I was doing before
Mhm.
COVID hit and then the plant world exploded.
Yeah.
Um Lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
No, I feel you completely because I had a similar thing where I when I launched Etsy, I didn't anticipate it becoming like my Etsy shop was cracking. I lost it, I got kicked off. I got kicked off Etsy for selling San Pedro. But dude, yeah, it was like, whoa, what? I don't know how to do this.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
we're running a business now.
It's like, yeah,
So
what am I doing?
and the
Like, and
world's
then
like on fire.
oh yeah, dude. You had that and then people getting upset and just being stressed out because of the state of the world. And it's like a recipe for chaos.
Yeah. It's a lot to take on, and I could imagine that now your demand is so high that you have to like upgrade and get new stuff and learn
Yeah.
more and
Yeah, exactly. With the houseplant boom in 2020, that was when I got for real serious about growing houseplants because
mm-hmm.
that's what everybody wanted.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted the stuff that's trendy and cool and elbows were selling for ridiculous amounts of money, ties were selling for ridiculous amounts of money, and now we've kind of crashed back down and leveled a bit, which
Yeah.
I'm fine with, and I'm happy to be able to offer things at better prices,
Yeah.
honestly, because I can only imagine how many people put themselves into some severe debt for
Right.
plants. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And the sad thing is that some of it might not have been for like the most authentic reasons either. I got caught up in it too. Like, oh, I need
Hmm.
this, and this. I need all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
social media
I'm
is
like,
screaming in
what
our
is
faces like you
happening?
need this.
Yeah. No, that's great. That hasn't quite happened in the cactus market yet. With the
Yeah,
crashing and leveling out, seems to still be getting worse.
really?
I mean, some people are like good people are changing that narrative, and
Yeah,
you know what I mean, being reasonable, but still, yeah, Some of these
That's
copia
awesome.
poas are insane,
I'm really
insane
glad.
pieces.
Really?
Yeah,
What are they at now?
thousands of dollars, thousands of dollars. You gotta
Oh
spend like
shit.
$500 for like a little handful of copia
Oh
poa.
my
It's wild.
God.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah. I didn't know that the album prices were going down. I'm glad I didn't buy any when it was crazy.
Yeah, they are going down quite a bit. I mean, I at least get them for a good price. So, and like I
You're
charge based
importing
on
them?
what I'm buying.
You're importing
Yeah,
them?
for the
Okay.
most part, I'm importing. I have a really good supplier out of Thailand that's become like one of my really good friends. So I trust them a lot to take care of me, just and vice versa. So I probably get some better deals than some other people do, but like they know what my goal is. They know I just want to make other people happy, that I want to sell ethically sourced and like sustainable plants, and I want to help other small business owners in the community, whether it's from here or from overseas.
Mm-hmm.
But I regularly sell elbow cuttings for like 100 to $120 if it's a stem, but they used to go for like 250 back in 2020.
I'm gonna
Two
have to buy
fifty,
one
three
from you.
hundred.
I only have
Yeah.
one. I have one, and it has a second leaf, but I put the plant wave on it, and I ripped off a piece, a
Oh
piece of the
no.
second leaf with the freaking clip of the plant wave, dude.
What did it sound like though?
It was nice, yeah. That's what the guy says. He says the monsteras are like some of the most beautiful sounds because I guess they move a lot of water around. Something very special
Yeah.
about monstera for sure.
Yeah.
Monsteras are freaking cool.
They're such a fascinating plant in like all their forms too, because they can just take over and they do it. They
Yeah.
just want to. That's what they're like built to do. It's so cool.
So many new leaves all the time.
Yeah.
So many different kinds.
Yeah. How are you? I've been looking at getting a plant wave. Do you recommend it?
Yeah, totally. Some guy, some guy left a comment on the video and was like, "If you put, you shouldn't be speaking highly of Joe. If you put the electrodes in water, it plays a continuous sound." And I was like, "What the fuck?"
Like,
Some
well,
hater.
no,
Well,
no
no
shit.
shit. That's what it does. Then somebody else commented, "What in the hell is this pseudoscience?" And I was like, "What the fuck? Like, how do you guys not understand? Like, we're not saying that like plants are actually playing music. We're saying that plants like have electricity running through them and water running through them that has a current, and you can
Yeah,
translate that pattern into sound. That's cool,
exactly. Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
dude.
I
I bet
remember
you
the
have some
first
crazy
time.
ones in there. Some
That's
crazy
kind of
sounds.
why I've been thinking about it. It's like I want to know what different plants sound like, because like obviously they grow different, they have different currencies in them,
Yeah,
they're all different, they're all unique, so they must
right.
all sound different and unique. And that I want to hear it. I want to
You get
see
to
what
communicate
happens.
with them in a different
Yeah,
way, you know?
yeah.
I
They
kind
can
of always
actually give
knew
you
all
some
along they had
feedback.
that going on. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? You can feel it.
exactly. Yeah. I
Something
mean,
coming
they're
from them.
so responsive to like touch and sound in their environment. And like, I mean, we've seen differences in like the way you talk to them.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I just want to hear like their feedback to like what I'm doing. I think being able to have a conversation, so to speak, would be amazing.
Yeah. They're $300. It's totally worth it. You know?
Yeah. All
And
right. I think I'm convinced.
dude, he does this thing where he like puts on he did like a whole string quartet. He did loads all these different samples into it and then like has like 100 plants out there and they're all doing different things and it's like harmonious. And the most interesting thing that he told me was that when a good person, like an energy worker, like somebody that is like light, walks into some of his installations, that the plants like respond dramatically. When a
Oh,
certain
wow.
person walks up to them, they
Wow.
respond like beautifully.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I
So
think you've
weird,
got me convinced. I
right?
need to see how this goes.
I would love. I can't wait to hear what some of those plants do.
Yeah.
I have a question about Monstera. So
Hmm.
when they come in with, is it called fenestration? Is that what it's
Uh-huh.
called? Okay, so when they come in without it, isn't there a way that you can like facilitate fenestration by cutting into them or something? What, I don't understand how that works.
I don't think that's a thing. If
No?
it is, I haven't heard of it.
Somebody told me that one time because like I have some that just push leaves that aren't, they never have ever
Like
pushed a fenestrated leaf.
are you saying that you can like cut the leaves to encourage fenestration?
Yeah, that's what I heard. I don't know if it's true though. That's why I
Whoa.
wanted to ask
I
you.
I've never heard of that, and I would be like, I would feel horrible doing that to them. I mean,
Yeah.
usually it's like a light and stability thing. If they have something to climb and they have enough light and they're happy overall, their leaves will start to size up as they go into maturity.
Oh,
But
interesting.
I've never heard of cutting into their leaves like
You
that.
ever notice like when say it has all new growth and none of the leaves are fenestrated? I'm always wondering like why? Why are they solid, but then the other ones are split? That's weird. I don't know.
So that usually happens because some sort of change in the environment that
Mm,
they are usually it's like a energy preservation thing. If they revert back down to a smaller size without fenestration, something in their conditions change, whether it was
okay.
like inconsistent watering or lighting issues or like they got moved or repotted. I see a lot of leaves revert back to a smaller form after repotting because of the stress from
How interesting. Yeah, because I moved one out. I moved one out. It's getting too crazy in here. So I moved it out. And
it.
now all the new growth is solid leaves. I'm like, what's so weird? Why aren't you pushing
Yeah,
out? Yeah.
it's like you moved me. I don't like this spot.
So what's your favorite? What is there a focal point in your garden?
Um, I I try so hard not to play favorites with them,
Mhm.
especially when I talk out
Like they're
loud.
your kids.
Yeah, exactly. But I think my big Billiete eye is probably my favorite.
Mm,
And then like my Thai constellation's a pretty big favorite of mine, but she's a Thai constellation, so of course she's gonna be like the centerpiece in a collector's
right.
garden. But my Billiete I got off an eBay auction in 2020, and it was like two leaves that were maybe 6 to 8 inches long, and now she's pushing out leaves that are 2.5 feet long. Like they're
Wow.
the entire size of my forearm, if not bigger. But
Wow.
I have brought myself to tears over the idea of cutting that plant because I've thought about just like chopping it up and propagating because it's so big and it takes up a lot of room. But like I've had the shears on the stem and I like start welling up because I just can't bring myself to do it. Um,
Yeah.
it's like the bigger
It's a
they get, the
special
more
one.
attached.
Yeah.
Yeah, the more attached I get. And I actually feel bad, like I feel guilty cutting up
Yeah.
plants because obviously they can feel it to some degree,
Yeah.
but I
And
want to
why
be
not
able to
want to
like
have it whole as it's supposed to exist in its natural form?
exactly. I
Yeah.
think on the business side of things, I definitely struggle with that
Mm-hmm.
sometimes because I want to be able to offer people like whole plants, if that makes sense. Like I
Sure.
want to be able to offer them a specimen, but unfortunately that comes with a higher price tag typically, and people are willing, like more than willing to buy a cutting of a plant at a lower price. And like that's where my personal struggle comes in sometimes.
Totally. Yeah. I had something on that. Oh, what are your like? Do you have some really mature specimens, like old big plants?
I think my big ones are probably just that. I do have a couple really big ones. I just got a bunch of really big ones in that I'm planning to just kind of keep as mother plants and let them grow out, and then I
Nice.
can propagate them later on. But I think I'm gonna struggle with that too at that point.
Is everything under artificial light? Is there anything outside?
There's a little bit outside. There's a couple tomato plants out there. I do have a couple pothos. Sorry, I'm like looking out the
You're fine.
window. Um, I have a bird of paradise out there. I've
Cool.
got a hibiscus that I found recently. I love hibiscus.
Mm-hmm.
They're such beautiful plants.
Yeah.
And then I have variegated nasturtium. I can't pronounce it, but
Mm-hmm.
they're like little round leaves that just have like they kind of climb up a vine and they have really pretty flowers. But I don't do a ton of stuff on my porch just because it doesn't get the greatest light out there.
Can birds of paradise do winter in Seattle?
Oh hell no.
No.
Nope,
Yeah.
you got to bring them inside.
That's cool. Um,
Yeah.
what was I gonna say? I had something else on that. I don't know. But oh, I can see. Sorry, I'm a little loopy today. I can
You're fine.
see the passion that you have for the plants. It's like you're 100% plants. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it. And we had talked about exploring mental health a little bit.
Yeah, let's
Would you
do
be
it.
okay with going into that?
Of course.
Okay. Because I mean, I have PTSD and depression and anxiety and
Hmm.
struggled with addiction for many years. So I'm just curious, like how that's been a part of your plant journey.
I I genuinely believe that, in addition to my daughter, that gardening has saved my life.
Yeah.
Um, my I also have like depression, anxiety. I was recently diagnosed with ADHD.
Mm,
But I've been dealing with clinical depression and anxiety since I was 12, 13 years old.
mm-hmm.
So not long after I got into gardening, I actually started going back into therapy, and I got medicated. I was taking antidepressants and I was trying to manage it that way. But I think the real relief came from these, honestly.
Yeah.
It it gave me something to look forward to and take care of, and a way to channel all the negative emotions that I was having with life.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely think that they kind of healed me. I always have work to do and progress to make, just like all of us do. But I think for a lot of us in the community, it's helped a lot. But I haven't felt quite as at peace before all
Yeah.
this happened.
Just having them and tending them in and of itself is medicine for sure, right?
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
therapeutic.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's weird. I feel like that's some of the stuff, like like we can't hear the currents that they're creating when we also can't see their what they're doing to heal us either.
exactly.
You know,
I think
the
the
natural
ener
world
like,
that we can't see.
yeah, I think bringing the energy of like plants into your home, like, we everything has energy. I'm spiritual, I'm not religious, and I
Mm,
respect the earth a lot. I'm a Native American, so I worship the earth around me.
mhm,
And I think bringing them into my home and sharing my space with them and building a relationship with them has taught me a lot about myself.
mm.
And it helps me appreciate the world around me a lot more too. But it has also been a way to build like a safe space.
Right. Totally. Yeah. Safe space. I like that description because when you walk into even a therapist's office, say, if there's plants, it feels better in there, right? There's
Hmm.
something about when you walk into a room and there's plants that
Yeah.
you can feel it. At
Yeah.
least I can. I don't know. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's weird.
It's definitely I feel more relaxed when they're around.
And when they're
My
happy, you're happy too, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I remember seeing like a comic years ago about how somebody would name their plants after their friends, and how if a plant was doing badly, she would reach out to the person it was named after. And sure enough, something would like be up with that person. And it was like a subtle green witchcraft, they called it in the comic or something. But there's part of me that like genuinely believes that like there's a cause and effect like that
Mm.
between plants. Like I have a plant here for my ex-boyfriend, and sometimes it looks like shit. And I like usually I'll hear from him in like a day or two, like complaining about work or something's going on or something like
Wow.
that. And I'm like, oh shit, okay. So maybe there is a little bit of truth to this. And
Mm.
I've noticed like if I'm in a bad mood, like if I get into like a really bad depressive episode, or I start getting really anxious about,
Yeah.
whatever, it's like they start to struggle with me too.
Yeah, you can
And
see it
that,
in your plants. Yeah.
yeah. And it's motivating. It's like, okay, I need to work on myself, and I need to figure out what's going on with me,
Yeah.
because, obviously it's affecting my environment, and I want everything in my environment to be happy, not just me.
No, absolutely. That's just such a strange phenomenon. So do you have
Yeah.
any do you, like you said, spiritualism, do you practice any type of, have you dabbled in like witchcraft or anything like that? Do you like burn
No,
sage? Do you have crystals?
I burn sage. That's a pretty, normal thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't do crystals or
Okay.
anything like that. And unfortunately, I'm not very connected with the tribes around here. But when I was a teenager, I used to participate in ceremonies and like sweat lodges and stuff like that
Mm.
really often. And I really wish there was more of that around here. But there is kind of a level of shutout because I look white.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so I get referred, like I've gotten referred to as a pretendian, despite, you know, it not
Mm.
being pretend. So there's kind of a weird relationship in that regard. So there's like an exclusion factor, but I want to be there. So it's like I've just kind of had to create my own
Yeah.
way of going about things.
We're all native to somewhere. We all are
Exactly.
native to somewhere. And that is, yeah, I mean, I get it. It sounds like a struggle, like a cultural identity struggle, even a little
Yeah.
bit, right?
Yeah.
And to some degree, we don't want to appropriate their culture, those of us that are not part of that. But at the same time, I think that the medicine belongs to all of us, and
Hmm.
we should all be able to
Yeah.
partake in that, you know,
Exactly. I agree with that.
without intruding on their culture.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's really important to be respectful of, somebody else's culture. But I think sharing the experience and the traditions between
Hmm.
cultures is a great thing. And I think it would make people as a whole closer to each other. And
Is
I think
yeah.
the mental side of it for everybody being able to like be parts of those communities would probably benefit as well.
Yeah, we have a lot to learn from the natives here. And that's a big, I think that's a huge problem in society today, is a disconnect from culture, a disconnect from the earth, a
Yeah.
disconnect from the spirit. A lot of people are lacking that, right?
Yeah.
And then they hold on to like political ideology instead, or,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah, yeah.
they have
I've had
something
to take a
else.
break from like reading political articles every day because like that effect on my mental health alone has
Hmm.
been atrocious. It's horrible.
I'm checked out. I'm checked out. I
Yeah,
can't even tell you what's going on.
yeah. I mean, like I try to catch like the highlight reels just so I feel like I have an idea of what's going on, but like the
Hmm.
details I just don't pay attention to.
I hear about it by accident via listening to podcasts. So like I have my hand on the pulse. I have my hand on the pulse for sure. But
Yeah,
I'm not, you know,
you're not
I'm not going out of my
actively
way,
looking.
you know,
Yeah,
because I have. I'm guilty of it too. Like bad.
yeah.
I become very tribal very easily. Well that's beautiful. How many, you had quite a few journeys with the medicine?
I have, yeah. I participated in my first medicine ceremony when I was 16, I
Mm,
think, and it was life changing. It wasn't as bright and vivid because I was very apprehensive. I didn't know what was going to happen. I had never dabbled with any type of like psychedelic drug or medicine at that point, so I was
mm-hmm.
very nervous. But the calm and the relief that washed over me while we were listening to all the songs and just staring at the fire, and like there's kind of side conversations going on between all the different members and all the family members, and it felt so it felt like I was like finally able to take a whole breath,
Mm,
if that makes sense.
sure.
Like I felt like there was something on my chest all those years,
A
and I was finally
blockage.
able to, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And yeah, I mean, it was amazing. And then I didn't do it again for a while. But when I did, I approached it more with the mentality of like, okay, this is a healing journey.
Yeah.
This is going to help me. I want to be open to the medicine in order for it to heal me or help
Mhm.
me in some kind of way. And that made all the difference. Being open minded to the potential of what you and the medicine could do together. And
Yeah.
I remember like kind of disappearing so to speak, from the circle. Like I didn't notice anybody around me. I still heard the music and the drums, but it very much just became myself, the fire, and the medicine. And I don't even know how long it was like that for me, but I remember going through years of childhood traumas. I did experience some sexual trauma when I was a child, and
Thank you for
then
sharing that.
yeah, and then I went through some, abusive situations and family, and but it allowed me to like work through that and like realize that it wasn't my fault, and I'm
Mm,
not to blame for that, and but not to completely disregard that those things happen, but to embrace it and allow it to help me become a better person.
it's part of your journey.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's unfortunate, but shapes us into who we are, right?
Exactly. I mean, none of us would be who we are without where we came from. So, it it's shitty that it happened, but it I wouldn't be who I am without it today.
Mm.
And I wouldn't be a mother to a great child that, loves me more than anything in the world. And knowing that I'm breaking cycles of abuse and trauma and just doing better
Mhm.
than the generation before me.
Yeah, that's the most important thing. If we can educate people to come out of their sleep and stop this crazy generational trauma that we have from spreading into the next generation, man, it can stop with us. And you talking about this, I posted something the other day about somebody had want to know some influencer posted about how women need to talk about their psychedelic experiences because it is true you don't see as much of this conversation that's going on in the public about psychedelics
Yeah.
coming from women and I just or even anyone other than a man and I just really appreciate it because it's hard for me to find women that want to even come on to the podcast, let alone talk about something like that. And it's very possible that somebody's going to hear this and have experienced some kind of sexual trauma too. Another female, maybe, or whomever, experienced some kind of sexual trauma and heard you talk about how the peyote helped you work through that. And, it very much might inspire someone to do the same.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that
Of
a whole
course.
lot.
Yeah. My experience, like it's not limited to just peyote. Like I've done mushrooms. One of my COVID projects was learning how to extract DMT.
Oh,
And that I if anybody doesn't know what DMT is, it is like a very concentrated, quick trip. If you are able to break through the first time, but you get transported to a completely different world and you
mm,
are seeing beings and talking to things and all that kind of stuff. I mean, psychedelics in general are such a powerful underutilized tool for mental health, I think. But
mm,
I'm very glad to see that more like studies and experiments are coming along with it. Now these states are starting to decriminalize like psychedelics. I think we have a very long way to go before it becomes a common medicine, but I
yeah.
think it would benefit most people, honestly.
Well, it's a part of the disconnect that I have when trying to spread this good word is people not being open to it. There's a lot
Yeah,
of resistance. And kind of like how you
yeah,
said as a youngster, you were apprehensive. I mean, when we're young, I did a lot of psychedelics when I was young too, but I never realized the importance of intention. I never realized like how powerful of a tool I was messing with. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I just like experimental, wanted to be cool, wanted to have fun. And
yeah,
I'm hoping that we can inspire the younger generation to start utilizing those types of tools actually responsibly because they're going to do it anyways, right? So
absolutely,
why
yeah,
not teach them that like there's some therapeutic value in this like they're using MDMA right now to treat adolescents and as a
uh-huh,
preventative measure for adolescents. I mean, that's a freaking game changer, dude. If
yeah.
you can step in right after that sexual trauma happened,
Whew,
you
yeah.
know what I mean? You
Can
can
you
save them
imagine
from
the years?
years of pain,
Yeah,
years of
yeah,
addiction and whatever.
exactly. I think that's amazing. I didn't even know that was happening in
Yeah.
adolescence. I think, and that's kind of where it gets tricky too, because there's a lot of information out there, I'll say, about how you shouldn't use psychedelics until you're older because of your brain development and stuff. But I think it could benefit the younger ones too,
Yes.
especially the ones that experience trauma and depression and anxiety and bipolar and PTSD. Like, the potential to unlock things in your own mind with the assistance of these various medicines is phenomenal. And it's
Yes.
just so unrecognized.
Yeah. No, totally. Especially in a clinical setting. In a clinical
Yeah.
setting with people, like we're really learning how to do it correctly and even protocols. The funny thing is that some of these protocols are old as hell. The one that they used in
Uh-huh.
the MDMA study, it's from the 80s or 50s. It's from the 50s, and they used it all the
Yeah.
way up until the 80s. They already knew this.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
And it's like
bizarre.
we need to like start taking new approaches
Yeah.
and like different, what am I trying to say? Yeah, I
The
think the old
education for
ways,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
education and then just utilizing it differently.
Yes.
And I think the importance of intention, like you said, is very much there.
Yeah. And moving away from the narrative of demonizing it as a party drug, whatever drug it is, you know what I
Yeah,
mean? That narrative kind of has some strength still. Like,
yeah,
whoa, they're
yeah.
they're doing drugs, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. And I think that's another big thing too. I mean, with the younger generation, and I did it myself as a teenager in a young 20s, like there were times I would take it just to get fucked up. But if like we were to teach these kids that are starting to experiment with this thing, like, yo, if you tell yourself you want to heal from something, you can do it with the
Right.
assistance of this. And if like
Yeah.
something I would like to try is ayahuasca ceremonies.
Yeah.
Um, I think that would be really beneficial for my mental health. But I feel like if more of these younger people had guides
Yes.
or
Mentors.
influence, yeah, mentors,
Yeah.
that's a better word for it. I think
Totally.
that would drastically change just the behavior of people overall.
Yeah. For sure. And especially the plant-based ones like ayahuasca and even DMT to some degree is a plant-based medicine, and uh mushrooms, because I mean mushrooms, they're creating new neural pathways and activating parts of the brain that are never activated by any other means except for when these mushrooms are in your body. So that
Exactly.
sounds like a kid would really benefit from that while they're learning, and in
Mm-hmm.
a controlled setting, not taking an
Yeah.
eighth with their friends at a party with all
Yeah.
these crazy people's energy all around them, right?
Yeah.
uh
You're in like a controlled room with, if you want music, you have a controlled dose, you have
yeah.
different tools available to you if you want to, play around while you're up there. But
Right.
I
Yeah, we
think
made Play-Doh when I was in the MDMA study. We made cactuses out of Play-Doh
that's
during
awesome.
the during the session. It was awesome.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
I definitely, the last time I did like a heavy dose of mushrooms, I made this drawing of like deformed cacti and succulents, and it was like a mix of like oil pastel and colored pencil and paint, and it's just like stuff that I had laying around. But I told myself beforehand, like, I want to do this, like I want to create something. And I spent what felt like 4 or 5 hours on it, and then the next morning once I'm all sober again, I'm like, you know what, let me keep working on this. It felt really good. And
Hmm.
I think the habits that you can form with the assistance as well. There was a
Right.
point that I was able to quit cigarettes
Yeah.
after doing, it was the night of like mushrooms and acid, I think.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. And that so the story behind that one, I was supposed to do them with a coworker, but they bailed on me.
Uh-huh.
And I went home, was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. I'm not bailing on myself. I'm doing this. So like I already had gummy acid in my freezer from a friend, and then I took the mushrooms, I took the acid, and then I was like, shit, what did I just do? What kind of ride am I in for? And I ended up laying on the hood of my car for like 4 hours, just like watching the trees and the stars above me and listening to Odessa, of all
Nice.
things. And it's like, man, I really don't like the way smoking is making me feel anymore. I don't want to do this. Meanwhile, I'm like smoking the whole time too. So of course this is like it's a thing. But the next morning I woke up and I didn't touch anything.
Yeah.
I didn't have any cigarettes. And that lasted for I want to say 3 to 4 months before I
Mm.
ended up getting stress from work and picking it back up.
Yeah. No, wow, that's
So
incredible.
the power of intention is amazing, especially with
Mm.
the assistance of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you ready to start showing me some plants? Can we try
Hell
it out?
yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna move you from the waiting room real quick. So is that like your propagation down there? Like that's are plants that eventually are going to be on offering, or are they offered now?
Some of them offered now, but
Hmm.
for the most part, it is propagation.
Okay, awesome. And that's your style, your preferred style of propagating. Do you use what do they call it? Tubs? Do you use tubs? How do you like to?
I don't use tubs.
Okay.
I this is it. It's either moss or water or in a soil type of
Mm,
mix.
mm. I have a
And then I
question.
mean up there,
Mhm.
there's so much more.
Dude,
For the
3
most
levels.
part, all this top shelf is up for sale.
Uh-huh.
And then I have like live sphagnum moss and stuff growing up there.
What?
It's
There's
pretty
so
low. Yeah,
dude.
it's pretty low maintenance, so I don't need to check on it very often. But let's see. But
Dude.
so like I grow my own moss
Wow.
to propagate things in, and it's super fun. It's a really easy plant to deal with.
Oh my God. Look at the kitchen. There's plants everywhere.
They have taken over the house.
And this is just a
That
space thing,
is,
huh? Is this just a space thing? All the plants being in the kitchen?
yeah, basically. They just are too tall for my shelves, so I can't really do a ton with them on the shelving units.
That's awesome.
But they actually, some of them seem to like this light better in the kitchen because this is
Mm,
constantly facing this way up towards that light.
dude. Wow. This spot's even cooler. I think I like this spot. In the room?
Yeah.
Yo, I gotta mimic that. I need a jungle in my room.
It's so nice. And it acts as like an alarm clock, too.
Oh yeah, because the light turns on. Time to get up.
Mhm.
Wicked. Dude, there's fucking plants everywhere.
Everywhere. They've taken over my house.
Your whole life, they've taken over your life.
Exactly. Every time I get new plants in, my daughter just rolls her eyes like, oh my God, more?
How old is she?
She's 9.
Does she love plants inevitably? So
She does, yes.
awesome.
And then this is the ex-boyfriend plant that I actually
That
mentioned.
looks like an ex-boyfriend plant.
And then,
Then
oh,
another grow room, no big
we've
deal.
got some various cacti in here.
Uh-huh.
And then all my succulents live up here these days.
Oh, wow, I forgot that you did the trays of succulents. Dude. Wow, dude. A lot of those are imports or are
Yep,
they
a lot of them are imports.
okay.
This tray was actually a tray of propagations that my mom took care of for me for the better part of a year.
Wow. Beautiful. I love
Thank
succulents. I
you.
think I think they're very underrated.
I do too.
And I dislike that men seem to think that they're girly. I resent that men think succulents are girly and
Yeah,
houseplants.
I resent that gardening seems to be like a women thing
Right.
and guys are afraid of it.
Yeah. Get your hands dirty, boys.
And so this is actually a plant that I found at a local shop years ago, but it's a variegated variety of it. And I've never been able to find anyone else with them.
Mm.
And then I have a
You look
tray of
like a
those
pink
propagations
princess, but
down
not
there.
pink. Was that what it is? Is it the same family as the pink princesses?
It's in the same family. It's Philodendron Royal Queen.
Okay. Is that anthurium? What is that?
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I think these are regals down here. And then it's like a hybrid of some type of
Wow.
versicolor.
Just a little bit of plants in Shay's
Just
house.
I haven't counted in a really long time, but I would guess that there's nearly 1,000 in here.
Jesus. So cool. Man, I would love to like shoot your collection with a camera.
Do it if you're ever up here.
I would love that. I'll definitely come say hi to you one day.
Cool.
I've been to Seattle once. I went to Sasquatch Music Festival at the Gorge Amphitheater. Well, this has been absolutely fantastic. I feel like
Yeah,
we've
it's
not
been
run out of things
great.
to talk about at all, and I really enjoyed it. You caught me on a
Me
good
too.
day too. You actually caught me
Yeah,
on a really good day.
it's awesome.
Sweet. So, what's your website URL?
It is www.cheydplantlady.com, and it's
Sweet.
CHEYD, not SHADY.
And your handle is the same, Cheydplantlady, right?
Yep.
Awesome. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for sharing everything that you did, and
Yeah.
I will share feedback with you if it comes up, and
Yeah.
put people in touch if they want to talk.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm always open to talk like mental health and like the benefits of gardening with mental health. So if anybody ever wants to talk about any of that stuff, I'm super happy to.
Well, I look forward to seeing where you go with all this. You definitely there's some light at the end of the tunnel with your plants.
Yeah, there definitely is. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, we'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, Cheydplantlady, everyone. If everyone could please like, review, and subscribe to the podcast and hit that share button, we would both appreciate that greatly. Stick around for 1 second. Bye.
Bye.